Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Friday. Arsenal return to action in the Premier League, of course, tomorrow. That trip to Everton, Saturday lunchtime kickoff. Big game for both clubs, of course. Sean Dyche's first game in charge of Everton. Mikel Arteta has been speaking this morning at London Colney in his press conference ahead of that game. Arsenal will be travelling up to Everton later on this afternoon. So we've got lots to talk about today. Lots of what Mikel Arteta has had to say. He spoke about Gabriel Martinelli's new contract, which was announced just before that press conference. Fantastic news that. So we'll cover that in this video. We'll look at some of the latest team news. We'll look at some other things Mikel had to say. He's been assessing Arsenal's work in the transfer window and a few other things to talk about as well. So let's get going. We'll start with the big news of today. Announced just before the press conference, Gabriel Martinelli has signed officially his new long-term contract. Fantastic news. It's a 4.5-year deal, and it does have an option for Arsenal to extend that for a further year. So officially it's through till 2027, but with that option 2028. Fantastic news for Arsenal. What a talent, what a player. And they needed to get him tied down, and they have done just that. Still a couple more to go, of course. Saka and Saliba, the two crucial ones when it comes to that sort of age group of players that Arsenal are trying to get tied down. Mikel did speak about that a little bit later in his press conference. But this is what Gabriel Martinelli had to say. He said, "I feel amazing. I'm really happy in getting the new contract. I want to do my best for the team and for the fans as well, to give back to them and to make them proud. I've said it many times. I love everything about Arsenal. I love the city. I love my teammates. I love the fans. I love the club. And I'm going to try my best for this football club." Brilliant announcement video from Arsenal. Really liked it. Very classy touch. Loved Martinelli's little comment in there about how people say you played really well today, mate. Made me laugh. But great news. And you can tell with Martinelli. I remember when we all sat in London Colney a couple of months ago, and he was talking to James Benge, asking the questions like, "Do you just need the pen?" He said, "Yeah, just give me the pen and I'll sign." And that's why there's always been a big confidence around Arsenal that this one would get done. He still had a couple of years left, so when you look at Saliba and Saka, they've only got a year left at the end of this season, but Martinelli had a couple of years left, and they had an option to extend that as well. So there was no great rush or urgency with Martinelli, but it always felt like one that was just going to be done, because he, as he says in these comments, they're absolutely true. You know, he has found his home here at Arsenal, basically, from coming over from Brazil. He's been really touched by everyone and the way everyone's sort of welcomed him since he's arrived here, and you always felt like this was going to be a really of the three, this was probably going to be the easiest one to get done, and I'm not surprised that that's the one that has been announced first. Mikel Arteta, speaking about it, said it's great news. We want to build on all the talent and youth that we have in the squad, so it's great to see them happy and willing to commit to the club and what we want to do for the future. He's a player with enormous potential. He still has many things to improve, but he's already performing at a really high level, and he's doing exactly that. I mean, Martinelli's performances this season, from the very first game away at Crystal Palace, he scored the first goal of the season for Arsenal, and just from then on, he's just really kicked on. Maybe still doesn't score enough goals for a player of his quality and the talent, the position that he gets into, but the improvement he's made in the space of the last 12 months is absolutely mad. And he's only 21 years old. He's not even close to being near his full potential yet, and that's the really exciting thing, that Arsenal have now got him potentially for another 5.5 years committed to the club. And you just think where he's going to be in 2-3 years' time in terms of his progress. And Mikel was asked, where can he improve? What's the biggest sort of areas of growth that he needs to work on? And he said in all departments. He can develop physically, he can develop mentally, he can develop in terms of consistency, defensively, he can develop in the final third and in the spaces that he occupies. His numbers can be improved, and he's so willing. That's the best thing about Gabby, and he is an absolute workhorse. I said in yesterday's video, I did an interview with Tomiyasu. I asked him, who's the one player that you come up against in training that you are so happy you don't have to play in a match, face in a match? And he said straight away, Martinelli. Just said he's non-stop. He's just absolute animal in training, just does not stop. And Mikel said it there. He's just trains like he plays, and he's so determined to improve. He so wants to improve. And I just think that the ceiling for Martinelli is so exceptionally high that having him tied down now to this long contract is just such a massive boost for Arsenal. And of course, the key thing now, 100%, is not just resting on your laurels. You've got Saka done, you've got Martinelli done, that's great. You've got Gabriel done earlier in the season, but now there's others you need to get done. Saka, Saliba, especially. Arsenal, absolutely crucial that those two follow in Martinelli's footsteps and commit their futures to the club. Mikel was asked about that. He was asked if there are any updates, and he said, look, part of the plan is to extend the contracts of our biggest talents at the club and for them to commit to the future. We are trying to do that. We've started with Gabby, which is good news. The others will be done whenever we can, but we have to agree on that. I see everybody here is really happy, really willing to continue at the club. We have to meet everybody's expectations, and timing is key on that. Now, of course, those two, as I said, they will only have a year left on their contracts at the end of this season. So there is a bit of urgency there. Arsenal need to get it sorted. They don't want to let it to drag on for them to get into the final years of the contract. No one wants that because of the time and pressure for one, but then also just a distraction. I mean, we all remember that last final year of Sanchez and Ozil and how distracting it was, and how every press conference is the same. And I know you can say, oh, it's journalists are to blame to keep asking the questions, but when you get down to the final years of such key players, it's always going to be a question. Of course it is. And that's why I think it'd be so important just to get that done, just to take away the uncertainty, ensure it doesn't become a distraction next season, get it done as soon as possible. And they are trying, and hopefully they will certainly be able to follow up this announcement with Martinelli with some good news on Saka and Saliba as well. Okay, so team news-wise, ahead of the game against Everton, Mikel was talking about Partey, and he said, let's see, that one is still a doubt. Let's see today how he comes in, if he's able to train or not. We'll make a decision on that. He's not ruled out. It's nothing very significant, but it was significant enough to get him out of Manchester City, which for Thomas is unusual. Hopefully he will be fine. It's just managers talk, but as far as I'm aware, he's fit. He's going to play. He trained yesterday, and unless he's sort of suffered a reaction in training yesterday that I don't know about, then I'm absolutely certain he's going to play, and he's going to travel up with the rest of the squad today. So I'll be very surprised. Like I said, unless there's an injury that I didn't know about, I haven't heard about, that he picked up yesterday's training session. Thomas Partey's fit as far as I'm concerned. On Emile Smith Rowe, he just ruled him out. He said no, not yet. He's not ready, which is a shame. Obviously, it was great news when Emile came back after 4 months out. I've seen a lot of criticism almost for him on social media today, which and the sort of replies to my tweet of saying that Mikel's ruled him out. So a lot of people saying, sell him, he's never fit, blah, 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 which is just ridiculous. But I think you just got to be a little bit patient with Emile. He's been out for 4 months. Anyone who comes out for 4 months can come back and they can have a knock, because suddenly you're putting your body through such a strain that it hasn't been through before, because you've been in rehabilitation. It just happens time and time again with players who have been out with long-term injuries. They come back and they pick up little niggles. This isn't something that's connected, or as Arsenal was saying anyway, it's something that's not connected to the original injury. It's a thigh issue this time. Obviously it was a hamstring before. So hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. I think you just got to accept at the moment, because he's been out for so long, that it's going to take him a while. When he's going to come back, he might pick up another injury elsewhere. I mean, you think back, someone made a really good point on my social media, actually, on Twitter, replying to one of the people who was being a bit negative towards Smith Rowe, saying, I bet you weren't saying it's about Martinelli, when Martinelli was picking up all those injuries. And he's right. It wasn't long ago that Martinelli was consistently getting himself injured, and people were like, oh, he can't stay fit. Well, look at him now, he can stay fit and he's fine. So you just got to be a bit patient. You've got to remember these players are very, very young, and they're putting their bodies through an awful lot. And it's a shame that Smith Rowe's not available. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Arsenal are still saying it's nothing serious, it's just precautionary. So hopefully we'll see him back sooner rather than later. But the latest on Smith Rowe, unfortunately, is he will not play against Everton. Reece Nelson's back, which is great, so he could well be involved at Everton. If not tomorrow, then certainly for the game next weekend against Brentford, which is good news for him and for Arsenal and for the squad. Obviously, no Gabriel Jesus, he is out with that injury, but he did post that picture on social media saying which showed he was back on the pitch in boots. So obviously that's not full training yet, but it's good that he's even made that step. So fingers crossed it won't be too much longer until we can get Gabriel Jesus back fit. So that's the latest team news for Arsenal ahead of Everton. A couple of other things I thought would be interesting to talk about from the press conference today. First of all, Mikel was asked for his sort of assessment of the transfer window now that it's finished. How does he feel? And he said, look, it was a tricky one, but I think in the end it's been a positive one. I think we had three main areas of positions that we wanted to improve, and we've done that. In Trossard, we brought a player who's already knows the league, performed at a great level, has versatility, which is what we needed. He had quality, goal threat, especially after the injury to Gabby. With Jacob, he's a young talent, incredible potential. He's going to help redefine our way of playing. And with Jorginho, he's a player that speaks for himself when you look at his CV, his playing record and his quality. I think we've made some really good decisions there. So he admits it was tricky, obviously, because Arsenal didn't get their main targets, their two main targets, so it wasn't plain sailing by any means. But at the end of it, he's looked at what they've got in, and they are stronger. And that's kind of how I summed up the transfer window as well. It was a weird one. It was a strange one in some respects for Arsenal, because they sort of reached for the stars almost. They tried to make it a spectacular window, certainly in terms of names and spending. Didn't happen. But it's still been a very sensible window because they've got some good players in. They've improved the squad, no doubt about it. They're stronger now than when they started it. And that's got to be the aim when you start the transfer window. So although you did miss out on the big targets, you did strengthen. So I can see exactly what Arteta's talking about there, where he says it was tricky, but in the end, it was positive. El Nenny's contract, that's going to be renewed, or it looks like that's definitely going to be renewed. And obviously this is coming on the back of the injury update, because El Nenny's out of contract at the end of the season, but he does have a year's extension, and that extension, we understand, is going to be triggered. And I think this is a really nice touch from Arsenal, and this is something Arsenal have done in the past. Wenger did it with Santi Cazorla when he got his injury and was having his injury problems. I think it happened to Mikel Arteta as well, actually, when he was at the club. And El Nenny's been here an awful long time, and he's going to be out for the season with this injury. He's not going to come back this season. He's probably going to be injured until at the end of the year almost, or certainly coming back by the end of the year. And, Arsenal could just release him and sort of be halfway through that recovery and be like, there you are, Mo, you're on your own now. You have to deal with the recovery on your own. Or they could stand by their player, give him this extension, and help him get through with the recovery. And I think it's a really nice touch. It looks like that's what they're going to do. It hasn't been announced yet, but we do understand that contract will be triggered, and that will give El Nenny the space, the breathing space, just to be able to focus on his recovery, get himself fit, and hopefully come back at some point next season and provide another option for Mikel before he eventually does leave the club. And I think that's about it, really. Sort of looking at, this is one thing he did say when he was asked about missing out on key players in January. He said, I'm really happy with what we've done. For what you plan and what you can actually do in this industry, normally it doesn't happen. So you have to mould and adapt. We've done that, and the most important thing is the profile of the person, and the quality that we bring in makes us better. And I've no doubt that we've done that. So that's just another interesting comment I thought he made about the fact that they did miss out on their targets, but they did then react to the disappointment of that and went out and still strengthened their squad and finished the month stronger than we are now. Of course, all three of those players could well be involved at Everton tomorrow. I imagine they will be. I think they'll all probably be on the bench. I'd be very surprised if they're not. But we'll have to wait and see. But I can't imagine Jorginho's going to make his debut. I don't think Trossard will get in ahead of Martinelli, and Kivior's certainly not going to start. But I think they're all going to be involved, and that bench is going to look an awful lot stronger than it did at the start of the month, and that is a really crucial thing for Arsenal as they start the second half of the season. Predicted 11-wise for the game tomorrow. I'm just going to go with the team I think we're all going to expect to be playing. So Ramsdale in goal, Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Nketiah and Martinelli. I'll be very surprised if it's not that, but we shall wait and see. Let me know what you guys think. What starting 11 do you want to see at Goodison Park tomorrow? If there's any that differ to mine, then let me know in the comments below. And anything else you've agreed with, disagreed with, heard in this video that you want to have a comment on, then do just that. Always love to get your opinion as always. All right, that's it from me. Thank you very much, everyone. I will be travelling up to Goodison Park tomorrow. Very early start to get up to Liverpool for that lunchtime kickoff. That'll be fun. But hopefully the match itself will wake me up and give me some good, much needed entertainment. So keep your eyes peeled from me for all the stuff from Goodison Park tomorrow. Until then, have a fantastic day, and I'll speak to you very soon.